July 2, 1937, Amelia Earhart, the most famous female pilot in the world, attempts to fly around the globe. She's completed 22,000 miles, only 7,000 remain. Her destination, Howland Island, a tiny speck in the vast Pacific. At 8:43 a.m., she radios, "We are running north and south." Then silence. Amelia Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan vanish. The U.S. Navy launches the largest search in history, finds nothing. Amelia Earhart, born in Kansas in 1897, became America's most celebrated aviator. In 1928, she became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic as a passenger. In 1932, she became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. She set numerous aviation records, became an international celebrity, advocated for women's equality in aviation and beyond. In 1937, Earhart decided to attempt something extraordinary: fly around the world at the equator, approximately 29,000 miles. No woman had done this, few men had attempted it. She would fly a twin-engine Lockheed Electra with navigator Fred Noonan, an experienced aviator and navigator. They departed Miami, Florida on June 1, 1937. The journey went well. They flew east across South America, Africa, India, Southeast Asia. By late June, they reached New Guinea. They had completed 22,000 miles of the journey. Only 7,000 miles remained across the Pacific back to California. The most dangerous leg, ocean, flying with few landmarks, limited navigation aids. The next destination was Howland Island, a tiny coral atoll in the Central Pacific. The island is less than 2 miles long, half a mile wide. Finding it in the vast ocean would be extremely difficult. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca was stationed near Howland to provide radio navigation assistance, but there were problems with radio communication from the start. July 2, 1937, at 12 a.m., Earhart and Noonan departed Leh heading for Howland, 2,556 miles away. They had enough fuel for approximately 20 hours of flight. The Itasca began receiving radio transmissions from Earhart around 2:45 a.m., but the transmissions were weak, difficult to understand. Earhart couldn't hear the Itasca's replies. At 6:14 a.m., Earhart radioed about 200 miles out. At 7:42 a.m., she said, "We must be on you but cannot see you. Fuel is running low." At 8:43 a.m., her last clear transmission, "We are running north and south." This suggested she had reached the area where Howland should be, but couldn't find the island. She was flying a search pattern north and south, hoping to spot it. After 8:43 a.m. silence. No more transmissions. The Itasca sent radio signals, tried to raise Earhart. No response. By mid-morning, it was clear something was wrong. The U.S. Navy immediately launched a massive search operation. The battleship Colorado, aircraft carrier Lexington, dozens of ships and aircraft searched 250,000 square miles of ocean for 16 days. They found nothing: no wreckage, no oil slick, no life raft, no bodies, no trace of the Lockheed Electra or its occupants. On July 19th, the official search was called off. Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan were declared lost at sea. But what happened to them? Remember this. The official conclusion was, they ran out of fuel, crashed into the ocean, and sank. The Electra would have sunk quickly. The occupants either died on impact or drowned. The bodies and wreckage lost in the deep Pacific. This is the simplest explanation, and most likely according to experts. But it's never been proven. No wreckage definitively identified as Earhart's plane has ever been found. Alternative theories emerged over the decades. The Japanese capture theory suggests Earhart and Noonan flew off course, landed in the Marshall Islands, which were under Japanese control. The Japanese military captured them, believing they were American spies. Some claim they were taken to Saipan, imprisoned, and eventually executed. Witnesses in the Marshall Islands and Saipan reported seeing a white woman aviator in Japanese custody. In 2017, a photograph allegedly showing Earhart and Noonan on a dock in the Marshall Islands surfaced, but experts later determined the photo was published before 1937. Couldn't be them. The U.S. government investigated these claims. After World War II concluded, there was no credible evidence. Earhart was captured by Japan. The Gardner Island theory proposes Earhart and Noonan landed on Gardner Island, now called Nikumororo, an uninhabited atoll 350 miles southeast of Howland. If they missed Howland and flew south, this island was the next landmass. The island had a flat reef that could serve as an emergency landing strip at low tide. The International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, TIRE, has conducted multiple expeditions to Nikumororo since 1989. They found artifacts: a piece of plexiglass consistent with an Electra window, a jar of anti-freckle cream Earhart was known to use, part of a shoe similar to what Earhart wore, and bones discovered in 1940 that were initially dismissed. In 1940, a British colonial officer found partial skeletal remains on Nikumororo. They were examined and dismissed as male. But in 2018, forensic anthropologists reanalyzed the bone measurements using modern techniques. They concluded the bones were more consistent with a woman of Earhart's height and build. However, without DNA testing, which is impossible because the bones were lost, this remains circumstantial. Tyre theorizes. Earhart and Noonan landed on the reef, survived for days or weeks as castaways sent distress calls that were heard by radio operators but dismissed as hoaxes. Eventually, they died from injury, dehydration, or starvation. The Electra was washed off the reef by waves and sank. In recent years, new evidence and technology have been applied. In 2012, an underwater expedition found debris on the ocean floor near Nikumaroro that could be aircraft wreckage, but it hasn't been definitively identified. In 2019, Robert Ballard, the oceanographer who found the Titanic, searched the waters around Nikumaroro using advanced sonar, found nothing conclusive. Forensic analysis of radio distress calls, received in the days after Earhart disappeared, suggests some were authentic. Multiple people across the U.S. reported hearing a woman's voice on Earhart's frequency, saying SOS water rising, or similar messages. These were dismissed at the time as hoaxes, but modern analysis suggests at least some could have been real. If Earhart survived the initial landing and sent distress calls, why wasn't she found? The Itasca and other ships did search near Nikumaroro, but may have been looking in the wrong places or at the wrong times. If the Electra landed on the reef at low tide, it would only be visible for a few hours before being covered by high tide. Another theory suggests Earhart completed a secret spy mission for the U.S. government. Some claim she was tasked with photographing Japanese military installations in the Pacific. This theory lacks evidence, and most historians dismiss it. The U.S. had no need for such a risky operation, and Earhart had no intelligence training. The truth is, we don't know what happened. The crash and sink theory is most likely but lacks physical proof. The Gardner Island theory has intriguing evidence, but nothing definitive. The Japanese capture theory has been largely debunked. Without finding the Electra or definitive remains, we may never know for certain. What happened to Amelia Earhart? Did she crash into the Pacific? Did she survive on a deserted island? Or was there something more? Comment your theory below. If this aviation mystery fascinated you, leave a like, subscribe to MyC Mysteries, turn on notifications, and share this with anyone interested in unsolved disappearances and aviation history. Save this video because some flights never reached their destination. Some heroes vanished without a trace. Some mysteries the ocean never revealed. MyC Mysteries, where curiosity meets the unknown. See you in the next mystery.